Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 709.
From the sleepy suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, there are assembled the world's two greatest podcast hosts, created from the cosmic legends of the universe. Sean Whalen.
Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast. I'm a big fan of variant colors. My love for Batman is that stuff. Let's talk some comics.
And Jim Segulin.
How's it going, eh? You know me and Superman. I'm really loving what they're doing. Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast.
Their mission, to discuss DC comics in books, movies, and television several times a month in 1 to 3 hour episodes. And to serve all mankind.
Outstanding!
Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we are going to be talking about Batman Catwoman's Gotham War event. We're also going to be talking about Blue Beetle #1. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
We have Batman 89 Echoes, issue 1 of 6, 40% off $239. Batman Offworld, issue 1 of 6, 40% off $239. And Batman Santa Claus Silent Night, issue 1 of 4, 40% off $239. Thank you, DCBS.
It's a heck of a lineup. Over at InStockTrades.com, they always have their deals of the week, and they have Batman Under the Red Hood, the Deluxe Edition hardcover. $49.99 regularly, 50% off, only $24.99. Deceased War of the Undead Gods hardcover, $29.99 regularly, 50% off, only $14.99. Superman vs. Messi trade paperback, volume 1. $9.99 regularly, 50% off, only $4.99. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotline, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Green Lantern, let you and I destroy that space junk.
Our first discussion this episode is going to be Batman Catwoman, the Gotham War. Written by Tini Howard and Chip Zdarsky. Pencils by Mike Hawthorne. Inks by Adriano Di Benedetto. Colors by Romulo Fajardo Jr. Editors Ben Abernathy and Jessica Chen. Cover by Jorge Jimenez. Variant cover by Joe Quesada, Kevin Nolan, Richard Isanov, and Kale NGU. The variant cover by Otto Schmidt. Another variant cover by Carl Nagu. NGU, I know I'm butchering that. 1/1000th variant, 1/100th, I should say, variant cover by Joe Quesada and Kevin Nolan. Foil variant cover by John Boy Myers. Batman created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger. Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. And to be clear, this episode we're going to be talking about the Battle Lines issue and the first issue of Batman that's a part of this crossover. So we're going to get spoilery on that and kind of talk organically about both. So the creative team was really for the Battle Lines issue, but it encompasses really a lot of the creative that's involved in this behind the scenes because of the fact that we've got this particular story that's going to be going into Batman and Catwoman and into some one-shot specials and things. I didn't realize how ready I was for, I really love Night Terrors, so this is I don't want to make this sound like an indictment of Night Terrors. It was 2 months of Night Terrors. Great. I really enjoyed the event and everything like that. Boy, it's like all of a sudden after that, boom. Now we've got this whole Batman Catwoman event that's going on. And what I love about this is it does exactly what I love about continuity-based storytelling, serialized storytelling. This is factoring in everything that's happened to both characters, including Night Terrors. So there's elements of all of that incorporate into this because we've got a Batman right now that's been through a lot. The fail-safe storyline, what he went time travel-wise, losing his hand. He comes back. He's gone into Night Terrors. He's done this. He's done that. Catwoman's done this. Gotham has changed. There has been a multiple-month time passage where Bruce has been on the shelf. He'd been sleeping. And this is a Gotham that is factoring that in. There's been some big changes. It also deals with a relationship that has gone sour over two people that really lost the way in efforts with communication. You know, like, how do we as a couple deal with things together? They aren't, and they're bitter in different ways, and it's manifesting in different ways. It's a very cool story because it feels very like you could see how these two wound up there, and it's what I'm like chomping at the bit for this storyline. I didn't know I wanted it. I want it. This is great.
If anybody needs a hug, it's Bruce. He really does.
Oh, sure.
You know? I feel it's one of those things with the Batman stories. They just physically beat on that poor guy. It's, you know, all the heroes, when they have their story arcs, yeah, you're like, whoa, that's a tough one. Bruce gets it the worst of everybody.
Mentally and emotionally.
On top of another, on top of another.
You mentioned the physical toll, but there's also a mental and emotional toll that cannot be discounted in this. This is a guy who trains and hones himself to be in perfect control, right? He's in a situation where things that he's done to kind of give himself backup, things like failsafe, things like Zur-En-Arrh, even the team that he's created are things that are sort of working against him.
Yes.
And
big time. And it's one of the things, because you mentioned like the mental side, the physical, the emotional side of it. One, Bruce's mental state is in high question. His emotional state has always been horrible. You know, this is a hero who's based on a childhood trauma. You know, it's not, you know, this is post, you know, he's PTSD from a childhood trauma that created the Batman. So that right there is just the groundwork for something horrible that's going to happen to him. And we see it time and time again that the emotional side is always what really messes him up. He had that whole where they did the mind wipey thing to him that created the more paranoid Batman. You know, we've got this now coming through where Zur-En-Arrh, his mental backup, created failsafe. You know, and that, you know, drove him through this. And now, even now, Zur-En-Arrh is still there. He's active in his brain. So here's Bruce, who created this backup, who basically created a multiple personality intentionally, is now having issues with that multiple personality. This guy is 100% walking the tightrope. And it's one of those things that Chip Zdarsky is doing a brilliant job with writing Batman. It's funny. I always talk about my list of writers. You know, Chip Zdarsky is now on that list. You know, when I'm going through and I'm seeing stuff where it's not DC, it's independent, creator-owned, any of that kind of stuff.
Daredevil. Read Daredevil. Please read Daredevil. It's so good. I mean, this guy's had a long run on Daredevil. I'm saying this to anybody listening to this, not just you, Jim. His Daredevil, if you like his Batman stuff, his Daredevil stuff is just as brilliant. It's really, really good.
Okay, here's the joke I was just about to do. And I was going through. I was about just to say, and I just read this thing in this little indie series that he did called Daredevil. It's absolutely amazing. You know?
Did you read Daredevil?
Beat me to the punch.
Have you read Daredevil?
No, I just picked it up.
Okay, yeah, it's really.
I literally picked it up because of his name. You know, and I was like, and again, it was one of those things. And you may have even said in the past, his thing, I don't remember, but I remember seeing his name on Daredevil and going, oh, if he's doing Batman, he's got to do something really cool with Daredevil. So I haven't had a chance to read this stuff, but I did pick it up.
I was reading Daredevil before he took over Batman. I'm a big Daredevil fan. So this was something that was really exciting. I mean, you know, him coming on board and doing this. What I really love about this is, you know, I've said this many a time. I think my favorite Batman writers are the ones who are able to play with the sandbox in fresh new ways. Like, tell you kind of stories that you didn't realize you wanted, going to places that you didn't realize, that take into account stuff that's been in lore for years and continue moving along with it. We talked, you know, very early on in the show run where there was things like Grant Morrison was doing, for example, in Batman to add toys to the sandbox, right? He was doing things with Zur-En-Arrh. He was doing things with, you know, and like to see this brought back in this way and used in this way is another writer taking those toys and saying, well, have we thought about doing this with it? I mean, and I love that. I really think the creativity right now is something that it's one of the pieces that is just jonesing me about comics. Like, I read this and was chomping at the bit for the next issue to come out. And this is one of those where it's hard to read in real time because you just want more. Like, when I get to the end, I'm like, I reread again because I enjoyed it so much, but also because I don't have the option to continue reading yet. Which, that's a great reason to be rereading an issue. I did it as a kid. I find my enjoyment of doing that more now as an adult. We talk about sometimes the things we do for the show, quote, 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 under the, for the show. And, you can say that, it's all just fine. I'll tell you, for this, I reread this bad boy multiple times out of pure enjoyment.
Yep.
This is really a great story with all the characters that I love. They're all written really well. Like, it's them. And it's factoring in some things that are coming to a head, and I want to go in the room and smack all of them. You mentioned Batman's mental state. I question Selina's. I question his team's mental state. And this is really getting to the point where what I really like about this is we've got a team right now, a group of people that's in a transition where they've got to figure out who they are, what their code is, what they stand for. There's some truth to the fact that, okay, so Selina's taking thugs, hired thugs, and basically training them so they no longer have to be reliant on the various big cheeses that they used to report to. What she's training them for, and this is where the moral question comes in. This is where I'm seeing Bruce's side of it. I'm also seeing the reality. So here's what's happened. Crime's gotten better. They have a code now of you only go after the wealthy and steal from the wealthiest. Okay, but why is that okay? Yeah. Because people have money means that they're a target. It's okay to do that. What kind of a moral ground are we creating there? Now, they've improved certain kinds of crimes, but why is that okay? We're creating a better criminal who is able, to take on the philanthropists, the people that have the money. That eventually and historically does trickle down to the working class people. So it's an interesting sort of philosophy where I'm not totally anti what Selina's doing. She builds a family aspect. She's trying to teach him a code. There's no kill. She's doing this thing, and it feels like something that is tentatively held together by twist ties, where one twist tie breaks and this thing's going to just go. And all it has to be is one of them that gets ambition, that has been trained to head and take this all in a very different direction. I see that being a group that could splinter off eventually.
Oh, big time. And it's funny, real world kind of like comparisons on this. Currently there's a big debate within law enforcement community about the legalization of drugs.
Yeah.
And not just even marijuana. There's been talks of legalizing other drugs, regulating them, taxing them, have it set so that, you have to be actually registered, and that way the purity of the drug and this and that, there's not funny stuff mixed in that causes overdoses, and there's a huge debate about that. And and just like with what we're seeing in the book, you got some side saying, hey, this could work, this could actually help out, and the other side saying it's illegal drugs. What are we talking about here? And it's so it's funny because I was reading this and seeing the debate and knowing I've got friends on both sides of the argument who say, hey, weed's not that bad, guys. You got the whole argument on how it's less dangerous than tobacco and alcohol and all that stuff that's legal. Why can't we do that with weed? Then you get the other side like, but it's marijuana. What are you thinking? And it really did crack me up seeing both sides of this argument being played out in the book. Because, again, I'm seeing that in the real world.
Well, and the book mirrors the real world on this sense, too. This is a issue where nobody's looking for a middle ground. It's A or B.
Yeah.
You're either Team Selina or you're Team Bruce. That's very real world right now, too. The debate you're talking about is very real world. We are in a society and culture right now, right or wrong, whether however you feel about it, where you are pulled to be either left or right, whether you like it or not. There's gray area isn't usually allowed. Like, if you even try to, listen to both sides and go, well, on this issue, I kind of lean this way. On this issue, I kind of lean that way. You're still pushed because on that particular issue you're leaning a certain way to then all of a sudden be all in the other way. And that's not normal.
Yeah.
I love that, like, this is not meant to reflect that, and I don't think that was the writing intention, but it is so, I mean, I love when art imitates life, and you can sit there and read this and go, oh,
Yeah.
these are extremes, very much like we're dealing with extremes right now. And I really love that aspect of the story. I love when it connects and feels very real. And it's a very real problem that we have today because, like you, I like to listen to both sides of an issue. I like to, develop my opinion from that. And I don't always find myself fully leaning one way or another. And I think that's very normal. I think there's a lot of people nodding that are listening to this going, all right. It's kind of, I may be more this way. I may be more that way. But, there's many an issue where I like to kind of be somewhere in the middle and kind of figure it out.
Oh yeah.
This is one of those where everyone involved is making it very hard to be on one side or the other, because Bruce is even doing it to his team. Like when they're not taking action, he's saying by not taking a stand, what does that mean? Are you with me or you're not with me? That part is, he's Tim Drake. He is facing off against Tim Drake. Of all of the loyal people, Bruce should be like sitting down, hey, Tim, can we talk this through? I'd love to get your feedback. I'd love to talk this through with you because you get it. And I feel like Tim would help him get to some form of center, some form of resolution that's not just his. He is making the classic Batman mistake of just dealing with this on his own.
Oh, big time. And it's funny you mentioned Tim because he was one of the ones that I loved how... You think back in this issue when first reaction, Tim's taking down, the Zeus, Maxi Zeus, and he had him completely no problem. But Bruce jumps in. I love Tim's first reaction. Runs up to him, Batman, gives him a big hug, and then even Bruce has that initial, but then he hugs him back. That right there, I was like, that is always for me the greatest when they show this relationship. It goes back to when everybody thought Bruce was dead. And Tim was the only one like, no, he's still alive. And he found him and went through. And that was that great moment when they first see each other. He hits the EMP, clearing out any cameras that would. They both take off masks and they give that great big hug. I love those kind of moments between these two. And it's so awesome that Tim is like going, hey, let's look at this. Let's think about this. He didn't jump immediately into Team Bat, so that makes him an enemy. And I love seeing that because it's always because Tim is that guy who could possibly convince Bruce that maybe he's wrong because of just their personal connection. So if Bruce doesn't let Tim in, there's not a chance of that. And it's that relationship always makes me. I love just that connection these two have because Bruce and Dick have that great. He has great bonds with all his Robins. Even Jason, he has his moments. But there's something about that special connection between Tim and Bruce because Tim was there, at the worst moments, and Tim was the Robin who brought back the Batman. And he not only physically when Bruce died, but you think back to when they first introduced Tim, how bad off Bruce was after Jason died. And it was Tim Drake who brought him back, who brought back the personality. And even the ideology of Team Batman really does come from Tim, really does come from his interactions and his working with Tim. So it's kind of neat seeing this moment and then seeing it all quickly break down. I was like, oh, that is absolutely brilliant. That right there is great Tim Drake and great Bruce writing.
Here's the beauty about Batman's relationship with the Robins. You can really break them down in like a pretty cool way. If you take a look at his relationship with Dick Grayson, that's his eldest son. It's where he got it wrong in many ways. There was so many great things about the partnership, but that was truly his sidekick. He was not he didn't let Dick Grayson grow beyond being Robin. Dick Grayson had to do that on his own. He had to leave Bruce in order to become who he is now, to become Nightwing. And in many ways, he became the heart and soul of the DC universe by just growing and becoming that person. And when they finally learned how to respect each other in that relationship, their relationship's been so much better with Batman. And I love seeing Batman and Nightwing team up. Especially when Bruce is totally on with him and recognizes Dick Grayson for who he is. It's awesome. Jason Todd is the middle son he tried to make into his eldest son, and did it wrong. I mean, horribly wrong along the way, and just never really met the needs of Jason because of that. Tried to keep Jason living up to an ideal or living up to something that he couldn't possibly be. He's never going to be Dick Grayson. He could be the best Jason Todd. Tim Drake, on the other hand, is the first. If you take a look at the Robin relationship, he is the Robin that was his partner. Yeah, he was a sidekick. Sure, you get all those pieces in there. There is a different relationship between Tim Drake and Bruce Wayne. This is his partner, and I think foundationally there are so many great stories, so much foundational work that was done with Tim Drake that make him, I think, easily the best Robin of all time because of that. And it's something that's really cool about him. Damian's a whole other beast.
Yeah. Oh God, the little monster.
We're gonna talk about him either early in this or later. There's many points to talk about Damian in this one because we've gotten really only the foundational groundwork of where this story is going to go with Damian's involvement, because it isn't until very late in the Batman issue that we actually see a big thing from Damian, other than him weighing in the same way everybody else does when all this is put before them. So it's very, very interesting.
And I loved Damian's stance on this, to be honest. Again, I just talked about how this is brilliant Tim Drake writing. This is brilliant Damian writing as well.
I agree. Father, enjoy your nap. One of my favorite lines when he walks into he's still such a jerk. Yeah. The Kitty Cat Club sequence where, he was called in, to basically without masks kind of thing. Selina's appealing. But Selina's doing it, like her being on the stage, looking out at them. She put herself in, this is where it's great writing. She put herself on the stage to be with this group in a position of power. Yes. She was on a stage, so she was looking down at them, and they were looking up at her. She wanted them sitting down and comfortable because it put her in that visual. There's a psychological piece that shows how she knows how to work a room and work a group of people. It shows who she is. I thought that whole speech that she was giving, everything about that was brilliant writing. She was trying to control the room, trying to control Bruce until emotions kick in. And there was a point in time where the two of them had a verbal confrontation where she laid out some things that was, woof. She broke up the Bat family because of the, or at least splintered the Bat family because of different philosophies about what she's doing right now. But wow, her reaction with Bruce is like, Gotham doesn't need Batman, Bruce. It needed me. Should we head to the church now? And it's, whoa. I mean, yeah. The bitterness over this type of thing where she's like, the sad part is there's a certain truth to what she's saying. And she doesn't even realize it. She would not be doing what she's doing right now, and he wouldn't be doing what he's doing right now if the two of them had head down the aisle. If they had somehow found a way to make life work together where there was a balance of her and a balance of him. She's actually good for him, and he is incredibly good for her in the same balanced way. They add something to each other that just works. And when you see the two of them opposed, and when they're pushing back against each other, it is nothing but harmful because they stopped listening to what it is that drew them together. And this is true of any couple. It's very real. It's very raw. And this is dialogue writing, visual art writing, the visual art that's there. Basically the scene that was set up there was brilliant. And even Jason, sitting at the bar, leaning back on, she's not wrong, Bruce. Yeah. I mean, everybody was played and cast perfectly in this. This is just great writing.
Yeah, I love the fact that she called for masks off, and everybody but Bruce and Damian had their masks off.
Right.
Those are the two who kept their masks on. And even in the very beginning of it, when he calls them out, because it was Stephanie who threw out a real name, and he's like code names in the field only, and even Bruce, he's on edge walking into this. Granted, Selina 100% knows who he is. She knows who everybody else is, but Bruce is always going to be on guard on that kind and stuff. And I loved seeing that, And again, everything you said about just her position of power and this and that, 100% spot on. And also, you think about it, it's one of those weird things where on one hand, I'm Team Selena. On the other hand, I'm Team Bat. Because I agree with Selena that, hey, this is kind of working. And the key word there, when I wanted to note, I said was kind of. Because right now, yeah, they're seeing a drop in stuff. But what happens when all of these thugs are now well-disciplined thieves? Do they become well-disciplined thieves and assassins? Do they take the skills that Selena gave them and up their game? Because now everybody's going after the rich and powerful. Fine. Well, let me just start taking these side contracts of killing people. I'm good at climbing. I'm good at breaking in. I could, instead of steal some jewels, I could slit some throats. And that's part of where Bruce is saying, you're just making them better thieves. You're just making them better criminals. So it's one of those weird things where I'm like, I see what you say, but I kind of also agree with Bruce on this one. But again, if Bruce had a little bit better tact and had if these two had a masks off one-on-one conversation, this thing would have gone differently, I think. But because they were in the room, if they had gone, remember back to that beach when Bruce was recovering from City of Bane, if these two people met on that beach, masks off, this conversation would have gone dramatically different. But both Selena and Bruce are wrong in their handling on this. Again, like you said earlier, it's one side or the other. There is no middle ground.
Yeah.
And they're both thinking that way. They're both planning that way. They're both trying to stay one step ahead of the other, instead of working together. Now, again, there is raw emotion going on here. Selena, in a way, was wronged. Bruce, no, I'll say not in a way. Yeah, Selena was wronged in that because she was giving herself into the relationship. And Bruce was like, mission first, because that is how Bruce is. So it's
instead of making their own mission together.
Right. Instead of making a team.
Let's really talk about where I'm at, why I do what I do. How do you fit into this? What do you think? How do I bring you in? How do we build our own new mission together? It can't be his mission. It can't be her mission. It has to be their mission. Sure, there's ways for it's kind of like careers, right?
Yeah.
There's ways for couples to have like these separate careers, but even in that case, you still have to have this point in time. If you're going to have a life together, you can't have this person saying, well, this life, this thing, this element of me supersedes us.
Right.
If that's going to happen, you're always going to have that thing that supersedes you, and that person's going to know they come second to that. And how do you feel any security? How do you grow as a couple? I love the fact that there's so much to unpack in this, in how it's laid out. That's brilliant writing. You could spend we could do a whole episode on just their relationship spinning off of this, just because of how well it's written.
Oh, big time.
And that's something that I just really, really appreciate. Jason Todd, you got to wonder, whose side is he on? Is he really joining Selena? Is he operating for himself? I could see why he believes certain things that she says, but he's playing this double agent. She's playing him, which means there is no real trust there, right?
Right. So
he's not all Team Selena in what he's doing. He's up to something. And I don't know what that something is. And it may be that he's trying to get in closer and closer with Selena because he feels like what she's doing is working. Like maybe he genuinely believes that. But there's always some end to what he does. And I don't necessarily disagree with that philosophy completely, because I could see looking at this situation right now and going, oh boy, Bruce is going to extremes. She's going to extremes. I think there's some truth here in the middle. I kind of got to explore both sides of this to kind of figure out where I stand and what really is best, because this has a real opportunity to implode. I love how this is playing out because of that piece, because I think Jason's being brilliantly written here.
And my opinion on Jason on this, he is that middle ground. We talked about how people think A and B only.
Uh-huh.
Jason is that C. Jason is the one who's actually able to see both sides of it because he's been a thief and a killer, and he's been a hero. You look at who he currently is. He's adopted the code of the Bat. He doesn't kill.
Right.
Uses the rubber bullets, the trank stuff, and all that stuff, and he doesn't kill anymore. But he was at one point in time a killer. He was at one point in time a crime boss. So I think Jason is the one who actually can dance in both worlds, who can look at things in both worlds. And he knows that if he goes all in on Team Bruce, there's no way he'll be able to have any connection with Cap. So I think I think in this story, he's going to be one of the pivotal pieces. Him and Tim Drake are going to be the two pivotal pieces, I think, because what I think we're eventually going to see is Tim playing the middle ground from the Team Bat side. Yeah. So we'll have Jason, who's middle ground on Team Cat, Tim, who's middle ground on Team Bat. And those two, because we saw in Night Terrors how those two Robins really started connecting and really started bonding. I see this playing out with those two being the keys to getting this thing cleared up.
It's funny, Bruce has this moment where, he's analyzing his Bat family. Maybe I've been blinded by my affection for them, thinking that they all shared my mission. They all put on their costumes, pretend to be Nightwing or Robin. I'm not pretending. This is who I am. Justice. He's so wrong here.
Yes.
Dick Grayson doesn't pretend to be Nightwing. Nightwing is the character that it is because it's Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson's not pretending to be anybody. Dick Grayson's Dick Grayson. Tim Drake as Robin. Here's the thing. You can brand Tim Drake as Robin. You can brand Damian as Robin. They are not the same Robin. When you talk about Damian Wayne as Robin, that is a very different character, a very different definition of what Robin is. Because it's Damian Wayne as Robin. He's not pretending anything. Same thing with Tim Drake. Tim Drake is not pretending to be Dick Grayson or Jason Todd. Tim Drake is living the life of Tim Drake. I absolutely love that Bruce is my absolute all-time favorite character. He is doing what he often does. He's so busy embracing the Bat that he's forgetting to embrace Bruce Wayne. That is when he becomes the most dangerous. He's letting go, cutting the tethers of the people around him and letting go of Bruce. And you've got to stop doing that. I mean, that's a piece when he gets in the most pain, when he's been through the most, when he's got to keep pushing himself, he embraces the symbol that is the Bat. He's aging right now. He knows he's aging. And he's got to be driving home. He's been gone. I've got to drive home this symbol of Batman. Symbol of Batman. What Batman is a symbol. The symbol of Batman is different than the man. And there's a difference between trying to push what the city views Batman as and who Batman really is. There's a difference between the two. And Bruce sometimes gets lost in the mission of the symbol of the Bat and loses the person in that. I love the passion in this story because of that. It's super cool.
Oh, big time. Big time. I love just the usage of this one character. The one thug who Selina trained, and, you see in the beginning where he's just a thug, getting smacked around by the bad guys. He's trained by Selina. He breaks in. His first solo mission, he gets killed. I love the fact that it was just that one simple criminal, that Roland Garner, who really, in a reality, is one of the big pieces that sets Bruce off. Because this right here is the justification he needs. See, Selina, your idea doesn't work because of this one situation. And where right before that, he's sitting there saying, it's quiet. There's not an alarms. There's not going on. And he even starts thinking, did she do it? Did she succeed? And I love the fact that this was the thing that locks him back into his, no, I'm right. And even with the art styling, you can kind of see somewhat of Zur-En-Arr kind of influencing this. So again, you've got the whole Zur-En-Arr kind of influencing, the alternate personality that Bruce created intentionally is now starting to influence his real personality, starting to get into his brain. And again, brilliant usage of a no-name villain, but also adding to the fact that, this was a single father who made bad choices. Now, his daughter is an orphan. And again, it goes back to that whole tying to him and what happened to him to make him, the Bat. And brilliant usage of this throwaway character. Introduce him at the beginning, kill him off at the end, but he's really that big catalyst. I love that.
So Bruce, first of all, let's do the Riddler piece, right? So the Riddler's watching all this, and he's got his own agenda. He's not with the group later that we see in the Batman issue.
Right.
That are teamed up. So he's got his own, at least so far it seems like he's got his own agendas here. Be curious to see where he plays into this whole piece. And I love this kind of intrigue with that kind of stuff. So there's a question mark about him. But we got to talk about Roland Garner. Because Roland Gardner is, he worked for Freeze, he worked for Riddler, he's been a thug. He's a single father making bad choices. Now his death has, Bruce was actually in his mind thinking to himself like, maybe there's something to it. He's over flunkies. He's like, well, okay, nobody's there. It's there's a point to some of what she's saying here. He's actually listening to a certain extent. This death, though, with the orphan piece and all that, you're right. There's another layer to what's going on with him, with Zur-En-Arrh in that piece, that is interesting. I'm going to say I don't completely agree with Catwoman's philosophy. I really don't. But I'm not all Team Bruce on this one either. I actually liked the Bruce that was starting to think this through. It was kind of like, well, maybe in his opening up, the two of them can meet, somewhere and have a discussion about it. Maybe she can bend a little bit, and that's exactly, what is needed in all this. I absolutely adored this.
Oh, big time. And even I loved, as I said, that last panel there. You look at it where he's like, everyone's making bad choices. And now this father is dead, leaving an orphan. I'll fight you all if I have to. The mission has been tainted. And just, again, the lettering on how that's tweaked a little bit. And then we stop crying. Then you see Zur-En-Arrh's, we stop crying. And then you look at the color palette of kind of a Bruce going on, where it has that little reflection of the Zur-En-Arrh in there. This for me was writing, lettering, and art team all working together on a couple panels. And again, I caught all this stuff on my art read through. And that's one of the things I love about doing just a simple read through where you're looking at that, where you're just looking at the images and just letting yourself flip through the pages casually. It's absolutely brilliant on the artwork, the writing, and again, the lettering on this one. So all pieces of the puzzle really worked well on these couple, this simple last page here. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, absolutely. The artwork in Batman, I'm really enjoying this whole art team entertainment Batman book. It's just a really good looking book right now. It matches the tone, the style of what's going on. Seeing some of the Gotham villains appear in this one, Professor Pig, Two-Face, Calendar Man, we got Scarecrow at the table, Black Masks, we've got, it goes on and on. We got Tetch, and Ventriloquist and all those people. I could see them being this one, oh, listen, I'm not okay with what's going on right now. It's hard to get thugs. Here's the thing you don't want. These people sitting together, and planning out to fill the days and nights again with power and terror. This was one of the pieces that was, not only did you have to worry about the people Selina was training, you have to worry about what happens when these guys are like, okay, enough's enough. We need to take back our power here. We cannot have a world where now they're making it more peaceful. But they're also eating into our bottom line because they're now taking away from the profits that would have previously gone to them. So these guys are really taking a hit. This is problematic for them. I really love that this had to happen. I like its placement in all of this. Bruce's escalation is one that's Zur-En-Arrh driving that, right?
I think so.
When he took out her place of living, isn't that like Bruce is being pushed beyond himself? I'm not saying he's blameless. It's Zur-En-Arrh is Bruce, but it is a Bruce untethered, right? he takes out her home. I mean, they have no access to their home. Their home's completely destroyed here. He set a drone in there because he knew Jason was there. He actually outplayed Jason and all of that.
Yes.
So that way he could do what he needed to do. I loved that sequence where he is like sitting here, and I guess this is the old Bruce again, because this is a Bruce who's driven to prove himself, right? He is driven to prove that, like, hey, I am every bit as able to go as I could before, and then some. And he's doing it with his own family of people that he's trained who think they know him. He's like, I know tricks now that you don't think I know. I know all of you, but I also know something more. That battle between them, where it's like the whole Bat family coming to take him on, including Cassie, who, think about Cassie, we know about her as a combatant. That was so wicked awesome. He analyzed them on the fly and was taking them down one by one, using their own weaknesses against them. It was fantastic. Even in that case, overwhelming numbers of people trained by Batman are going to cause an issue until Damian shows up on the scene. Damian came in at the right time. I was really excited to see Damian at this point.
Dude, Damian's awesome. Again, yeah, everything you're saying, I'm nodding my head along with it, because I loved how he assessed them by their dangerous levels. And I love the fact that Cassie was the most dangerous of them. And he's right to take her out quickly. Yeah. And, Stephanie, she's got no eye protections. Flashbang, take her down. Nightwing, again, and it was funny. I loved how Nightwing and Jason started getting the better of Bruce. Those two working together were actually working, and then Damian comes in for the save. Mm-hmm. And as I said before, last time, this time, both times, perfect writing of Damian. I loved how he came in, and of course, he is 100% on his father's side. And it's not just because this is his father. This is also Damian's code. I think that, for me, is a real crucial thing. You'd think, okay, he's raised by the League of Assassins. Wouldn't he be a little bit more on the villains, on the thieves' side? No. When he 100% adopted the code of the Bat, he 100% adopted the code of the Bat. And this right here, this is the code of the Bat. Villains, criminals get taken down. Earlier last issue, in the battle line, in the Gotham War issue, he even said, I don't take orders from criminals. This right here, perfect, brilliant usage of Damian, 100% who he is. I cheered at this moment. Because again, Nightwing, Jason were doing good as a tag team. Damian jumps in, completely changes the whole line set. And even Bruce had to do a tactical retreat. They got Bruce to retreat, which for me was like is kind of a victory, but he already did the damage he wanted to do. He already did what he needed to do.
The hand, because it's really a fairly new thing for people. Damian's analysis of the hand, it's strong. Clearly emits smoke. What else can it do? I want one. and Bruce is like, yeah, you don't want one. And he's right, but he also has that as internal, which is a very dangerous thing with, and it's kind of, it plays into the whole, like, it's cool and enables him who lost a hand to have full functionality again. And there's a point to that. But, I'm with the philosophy of I don't want to lose my hand to get like a super hand. That's not a thing, right? Because it's not a hand still. It doesn't have you can't feel with it. It's not, there's things that are lost because of that. So I love that he's playing that out, though. There's the mission and the fact that it makes me stronger, it makes me better. And there's a whole philosophical piece to that is really huge. But it's interesting when he comes out as Bruce Wayne, he has to have the hand bandage because you can't have people seeing that hand, right? It's really, really cool.
Well, and I like the fact that, because we saw in the last issue when Oracle was talking to him, because your hand, and he's like, he never told anybody about that.
Right.
He's completely kept that to himself. And you think about it with, connections like Cyborg and all the other, everything that the Justice League has dealt with, they could very easily would understand the hand and actually even maybe help him out with it and whatnot. But again, Bruce can't reveal that stuff. He can't let down his guard, and it is the great classic, personality flaw of Batman in that, it's the emotional side. That's the great weakness of Batman. And I love seeing, again, in little playouts like this with again, something as simple as this cybernetic hand that came from the came from the failsafe storyline when he was jumping through the universes. It's a really cool thing that they're continuing on through the storylines. Granted, it was Chip Zdarsky who wrote the other stuff, but still, it's still something that's a part of it. It's still continuing. It's kind of like the usage of Alfred. With the death of Alfred, how that always does play out. Because again, if Alfred was still alive, a lot of this wouldn't have happened. A lot of this stuff, because he would have had his emotional crutch. He would have had that person who he actually can talk about feelings with and whatnot. So I always look at that and like, what if Alfred was still here? How different would this story be if Alfred was still around?
Another case in point of this being different when Alfred was around. What happens with his home?
Yes.
His home's ripped out from underneath him, and he's in a panic because now he's not only losing where he currently lives, which is less of a concern of his, it's more of the cave.
Yes.
And all of his secrets and everything that's in there. He's driving back to the cave at a breakneck pace, realizing that there's a major issue when it's there. I did not see Vandal Savage coming.
100% complete surprise. I liked how he was going there thinking it was Selina. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of along with him on that, thinking it was either that or one of the bats. Part of me was wondering if maybe it was Nightwing doing this, because he has access to money, even though he gave away almost everything that Alfred gave him. There's still some access there. Or one of the, because I was expecting one of the other bat families had done this. And that would have been their declaration on Team Selina. 100% did not see Savage at all, but I loved the debate going on between him and Zur-En-Arrh. It really 100% shows the fractured nature of his mind. That not only is him, he's seeing him as well. And that when you start having an argument and losing an argument with something you created in your mind, there's issues.
This has just been an amazing story, and I want to shout out real quick Jorge Jimenez, Tomio Mori, Clayton Cowles on letters, just the art team of this particular book, because of the fact that I just really think this is an outstanding looking Batman book. It's just a great art team that really matches the tone and the style of what's going on here. I am really Batman happy right now, which, it's very easy for me to get excited about Batman because, he's the guy. He's my character. But the thing that is really great is when you have these special runs that are going on, that they're able to build off of a thing and a thing and a thing, and it leads to this. It's like, I don't know where Zdarsky's taking us on this joyride, but man, I am glued to this book. This is an example of Dawn of DC at its best. This is, must read book. You want to talk some Blue Beetle?
Oh, definitely.
Nice work, Atom. What are these characters up to?
Our next discussion is on Blue Beetle, issue number 1. The writer is Josh Trujillo, art by Adrian Gutierrez, colors by Will Quintana, letters by Lucas Gattoni, cover by Gutierrez and Luis Guerrero, variant cover David Lafuente and Miguel Muerto, variant cover also by Emmanuel Valtierra, 125 variant cover by Caron Grant. The editor is Andre Marino, and group editor is Katie Kubert.
I like all these variant covers that they're doing and things like that right now. It's funny, as we were talking about the Batman one, it was interesting to hear that Joe Quesada, doing DC work, which, goes back to a lot of my early exposure to Joe Quesada was work that he was doing over at DC, and, on things like Sword of Azrael, or Azrael. I think it was Sword of Azrael back in the day, whatever that original Azrael was called. But it's really, really great. I loved the introduction to this book, and which one of the things Jim and I were debating over this, is this an ongoing or a miniseries? And I think our question mark comes from the fact that a lot of things that have come out with an issue number 1 now, you've kind of find out after the fact that you got a miniseries, because it's not always on the cover. But this one looks like it's an ongoing, and I'm very excited for that because I love the character, and I'm really glad to see this book being given a chance to breathe. The opening sequence that gives kind of a quick little backstory into Blue Beetle is nice. It's done through 4 panels. And I love that it has the old comic book printing style. You know, they kind of mimic that in its artwork style. I thought that was really cool, telling the story of Dan Garrett, telling the story of Ted Cord, telling, most importantly, the story of the Scarab, because the Scarab plays such a big factor into this particular issue, than the concept of the Scarab. But the story's titled Scarab War, this initial arc is entitled Scarab War. It's such an interesting part of what's going on with this Blue Beetle. I really liked this book out of the starting gate. I really love the art style too. There's something you need this fun factor kind of. I want to be very careful when I say Spider-Man-esque art style, because I don't want to make it seem like I think of Blue Beetle as just Spider-Man. I don't think of that at all, but there's definitely a link to that type of character, right, with Blue Beetle. He's teenager, he's got the fun factor to him, he's got that sense of wonder. There's something adventurous about Blue Beetle that fits more of the Spider-Man frame set, and I really like that. And I want to be careful saying that, I don't want to make it seem like I think he's cookie cutter Spider-Man or anything like that. I really, actually, if anything, I think he takes certain really cool qualities of Iron Man and Spider-Man and puts them together, which makes for this unique character. I really like the fun factor of the art style, though. What do you think about the art? Because I think the art team is really great.
Well, first off, I've been running through my head constantly, Blue Beetle does whatever a beetle can. Completely going along with the Spider-Man vibe. And also loving the Blue Beetle, Ted Cord, team up and usage, the mentor and all that always rings back to the movies of Spidey with Tony Stark and all that stuff. So there's all types of comparisons that you can make on the Blue Beetle, to Spider-Man comparison. Then the young kid who's learning how to be a hero. All we need is just someone in the book to say, with great power comes great responsibility, and you'd have it. And again, I'm not diminishing Blue Beetle. I'm not saying he's a ripoff or anything like that. He is his own unique character. And when we talked about the movie, I talked about how much I love this character. I love how it is that family focus, that family center, and his family's expanding with the other Beatles, with the graduation day story, the miniseries that led up to this was absolutely brilliant work. And again, really showed where Jaime fits in the DC universe. Yes, he is a young hero, but he is considered to be a hero. He had those moments in that prior series where Superman gives him the nod. And I love the fact that they all were like, it's Superman. It's Superman. And even Jaime was like, it's Superman, because of that, connection. So I love right from jump how Jaime is the leader of this Scarab crew, of these other Beetles, protecting his city, dealing with some horrific stuff that's coming down the pipeline on him. And again, there's doing some brilliant job with, just capturing that young energy that Jaime has, in the artwork, in, the writing, in, everything. I love the letter working on here. When we're talking Scarab, we're talking Jaime, when we're talking Ted, it's all the different people have their own different little groove and their different style to it. It's absolutely, again, this is a brilliant book, well written. I love the look of it. This is 100% one of those things where you need this pop of energy in your artwork. I always talk about with the Green Books. I really love when the Green Books pop. The Flash, he needs to pop as well because of that Flash energy, that Flash fact. Flash is always run towards danger. All that, that hoorah kind of moments. Of course, with the Big Blue, with, Superman. I love those dun-da-da moments. You're getting all of that on top of that youthful energy that Jaime brings to this. This is a creative team firing on all cylinders, and I'm so happy that this is an ongoing. Please, people, pick this up, get it, read it, love it. Oh my God.
Yeah, and that's really something that was neat. The madmen, the villains that we're dealing with here. I love the colorful nature of them. I love that Ted acknowledges, like, that they're kind of a lame kite man-like villain almost in the way that he's presenting them. But he's like, listen, they're delirious and demented, but they're powerful and mind controlled by their leader, Farley Fleeter. And he's like, listen, these guys are killers. You got this, kid, but just keep that in mind that they are killers. And I like that he's throwing out there, like, listen, don't let your guard down because of their crazy names. These are dangerous people. And I really liked just that presentation. I thought that was something that was really neat.
Yeah. And again, I liked, one of the things I always do like is when Jaime and Kaja are on the same page and they're working together, and it's that teamwork between the two of them. There is that symbiotic relationship, but you've got the other two scarabs that they still don't have that connection. They're still learning how to be a hero. Some don't even want to be a hero. They want the thing out of them, And I love how not everybody is all like, yeah, let's do this. And they're trying, and some of them are trying, and they're making mistakes. And Jaime is the senior on this team, and I love the fact that this kid, who is, again, he is a kid, he's freshly out of high school, is now the leader of this superpowered team that could accidentally destroy a city, actually accidentally destroy a world if they weren't careful.
Yeah, really. I mean, it's an interesting sort of thing, and I really love how that part's going on. I like that what we're seeing here is, again, a continued development of a supporting cast, which isn't just Ted. Ted is a big part of this. Ted is a mentor, yes. Ted has a different power set. It's an interesting sort of relationship between the two of them. But we've also got his supporting cast, the supporting cast that we've seen, who's really been with him since the beginning, since the inception of the character, and the supporting cast that is has grown over time. These others with scarabs. We've got the aliens. We've got a continuity that's continuing with him that is really important to me, and I really like that part of this particular character. Yeah. There's something to be said about him.
I really love the foreshadowing in this book because, again, you get that moment where they beat the bad guys, but they destroyed the city in the process.
Right.
He is down on himself because of the mistakes that were made, and Ted's like, "Hey, don't worry, man, we got this."
Right.
And even when Gloria's diner's in danger, he's like, "I gotta go." He's like, "Go, we got this." And I love when, as he's flying out, "Thanks, Ted. I can always count on you." And Ted's like, "Always." And I'm like, "Oh no!" When I saw that, I was like, "Oh no, they're gonna kill off Ted again." That right there is foreshadowing to the death of Ted Kord. And I was like, no, don't do that. Please don't do that. But again, the way this is laid out, how Ted is such a pivotal part of his life. How, again, when, back in the Graduation Day series, when all the heroes are coming down on, when the Justice League is coming down on Jaime, it's Ted who's like, no, he's got this. This is his city. He knows what he's doing. He's saved the world multiple times. And again, Ted is that rock, that 100%, person who believes in Jaime, who, again, we all have that person in our life where we need sometimes that person to say, don't worry, man, you got this. And that's who Ted is to him. So, again, that sequence with him just saying, I can always count on you, always. I'm like, oh, no. It's going to make for brilliant storytelling with how Jaime deals with the loss of Ted Kord. But I don't want it to happen, but it's kind of going to have to happen.
The thing I like about the look is we have the legato armor, where it's like this kind of like the switch to the armor. And I love that, like, this isn't a much more seasoned Blue Beetle, where, he's still like, got the Spider-Man factor where it's kind of the fun piece. He's also got a lot of what I like about Invincible. If I don't know if you feel that's a valid comparison, but I mean, I think there's some linkage to that type of character as well. I really like, there's still a sense of discovery, but he's got more tools in his toolbox. He's been a part of the Teen Titans. He's been a part of various teams, done various team ups. He's had mentors. This is a guy who's got some things going on, and he's used to having protected his city over time, which is great. I like he's brought to the town the aliens, that are there right now, and there is a combination of adoration, trust, and from another camp, even resentment of him for the fact that he's brought them here. We've got people fear what is different, and these aliens are trying to be peaceful, but there comes a point in time where enough's enough. They're sitting there just having dinner. They're not bothering anybody. They are just there. Rocks are being thrown through the window at them. I mean, that's think about this. You're eating, and now glass shards are all over your food. Glass shards are all over your table. I loved the artwork in that, because I was sitting here going, man, as a society, for, as far as we've come, that there's still hate. It's still a thing. And I love this story is touching on that and really hitting it. I thought it was something that was just really, really well handled in how this story was presented. I really, really enjoyed this.
One of the things I loved about again, completely agreeing with you, and I love how, they shifted the target to the horizon, because when you're dealing with Jaime, when you're dealing with his family, you very easily could go with Hispanic, that whole racist stuff going on.
Yep.
Very easily, with him and his family, and this angry mob could have very easily been because, go back to your own country kind of nonsense, but they shifted it, and now with the horizon, they're making it the human versus alien argument. And you gotta love how Gloria is like, no, I'll serve who I want to serve. This is my place. Everybody is welcome here. And again, it's that how you want people truly to be. We really want everyone to say, no, we're all equal. But you're going to run into the hate. You're going to run into the people who think, and again, on each side of this, each side of the argument, you're going to find they 100% think they're right, think they're doing the right thing for their people, think they're doing the right thing for their community, for their planet. And if you disagree with it, you're like, no, you're 100% wrong here. Everybody should be able to enjoy themselves. Everybody should be able to eat in peace at a restaurant or live the life they want to live. And I love how, again, comic books taking current stuff that's out there, because we still have a lot of hatred going on towards different groups, different ideologies, different whatever beliefs you have, there's always going to be somebody who's against it. There's always going to be somebody who violently is against it. And I love how this is playing out, because again, to your point, you see these Horizon people who they're like, hey, we're sitting here enjoying some empanadas. We're just sitting here having fun, and they're attacking us. And they keep doing this. And even Jaime's trying to help out, like, hey, hang out at the ship. I'm not going to live in that ship my life. I want to live. I want to be free to do what I want. And I love just how that's playing out. And you could see she's sitting there ready. That's the daughter of the shepherd. So she's a high up person in this community. And she's like, you know what? I'm getting sick of this. I'm about to take some measures. And I loved how they really, again, they show her, because again, this is a peaceful group. They came to the planet, saying, hey, we come in peace. We're trying to get away from the Reach. We're looking for safe haven. We're looking for help. But this is an alien society. Who knows what they're capable of? Maybe they've got some weapon systems of their own. Maybe they've got their own scarab or their own version of an armor or whatnot. And maybe we'll see it later on in this book. But I really did love how this introduction of the fact that, again, the hostility towards them, what maybe they're capable of. It was a really cool foreshadowing usage.
Yeah. And that's something that I really enjoyed about this was I really found myself feeling for the characters. I found myself, and a lot of them, I've got to admit, Blue Beetle is one of those books I've always enjoyed. It's been a good book, but it's always been one of those that has been my middle of the stack read. And that sounds like an insult. I read a lot of books. So if it's in the middle of the stack, it means it's actually got a pretty high spot up, because I've got a lot of books that fall into that category. They're all those things I really want to get to. Bottom, when it gets later in the stack, it's books that I'm glad that I bought. I want to read them. I know that they're going to ultimately stockpile. Middle of the stack still means these are books I don't want to stockpile. I want to read them. I might get 2 or 3 issues in before I can get to them, but I'm going to get to them. And I'm going to get to them quickly because I care about the characters and I care about the story. So he's been always kind of my mid-card, but I want him in the mid-card. My biggest fear in comics is that I've only got my top of the stack. Because it's my mid-card is like my stuff where they kind of add some variety, right? And excitement. I like hanging out with him and his friends. The whole beach thing, I think, kind of fit. I like that there's a mystery of what's going on with his one friend. Why do I keep forgetting her name? It's
Brenda, right?
Brenda. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I was blanking on Brenda. Brenda, who's been with him since the beginning, has been one of his most loyal. She's got some kind of boss, and he doesn't know what's going on with that. I'm curious as to who that is and what that looks like in all of this, because I think that part is going to be an interesting factor. We got to talk about what happened to Ted,
yes,
right? In this scenario. Now, they better not, and I don't think they did, right? Kill Ted.
Okay, I don't want Ted to be dead. Right. I love Ted, and I love his, again, as I said a couple minutes ago, about how he is that rock for Jaime.
Yes.
Now, storytelling-wise, Jaime dealing with the loss of Ted will be some epic stuff. But he guts him with that energy sword. Or, I'm saying he, but I'm gonna throw this out there. I don't think that's a he in that armor. I think we've seen that person already. I think that's the shepherd's daughter. That we saw earlier in the restaurant. I don't think that's. I think that character was either being introduced as a potential romantic interest for Jaime or as the villain.
Is she that tall though?
I think so. She's hold on. If you go back to the diner sequence,
right, she
is a little bit taller than Jaime. You see that scene where they're standing next to each other and they're talking to each other.
All right. So
his head comes up. His top of his head comes up to her eyes.
All right.
So she is a little taller than him.
And the reason why I'm looking at that is, just her stance in comparison to Ted, but that would be the scare of adding to that too. I could see that. I don't know. I'm also wondering if this winds up being Brenda's boss.
That too.
Yeah.
Could be. But again,
I like your idea, by the way. I just want to. I'm with you. I'm speculating. I don't have a solid answer yet, but boy, what a good story.
Oh God, yeah. And again, I loved how Ted had his own tech, his own defenses, because Ted is the goofy guy, but he is a serious scientist, and the tech levels of this Fire Beetle, was well beyond anything that Ted had. So completely cut through all his defenses and guts him up, and it's and it's one of those weird things, because I would love for Ted to still be alive, but I also think that if the villain guts Ted like this and leaves him for alive, it would weaken the villain in a way. On one hand, you can say, okay, gut this to send a message to Blue Beetle, but killing Ted Kord is a better message to send.
Sure.
So it's I am really torn on this. I really want Ted to still be alive, and that his last words aren't just Jaime, but he's actually able to somehow survive this. But you get an energy weapon right through the chest. He's got the blood coming out of the mouth. It's not looking good for Ted. I think they, I think they killed off Ted again.
I don't think so. I think he's hurt. See, I'm going to disagree. I think he's hurt really bad. I think that is what Jaime's going to have to deal with. He's off. I think he's off the table. To me, it feels like we're killing him again. Really? I hope not. Here's the thing. Any writer can tell me a great story. I see Ted being really hurt, though. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't it's one of those things I'll see. But right now, I'm wondering if
and again, yeah, I think there could be some amazing stories they tell with the death of Ted Kord. Again, Jaime's dealing with it. His reaction. You think about how killing off Alfred has dramatically changed Bruce. Killing off Ted would dramatically change Jaime's life. But I don't want it to happen.
But I also don't.
Alfred, I didn't want it to happen.
Yeah, but it's also like, I'll say this. I will be sorely disappointed if we're starting to use this as our only... I want to be very clear. I don't think what they've done in this issue is that as a storytelling tool. I think there's a difference between somebody getting hurt, building an emotional reason why he would want to go after the villain is a thing. I don't think the only way to initiate emotion from a hero is to kill everyone that's close to them.
Yes, I agree.
So I don't... Admittedly, are they using Ted right now a whole lot in the DC universe? No. So there's a way to... There's a reason where you can go, oh, I guess you could do it with Ted. I think the question becomes one, should you? Issue number 2 is going to be a big... what are they doing with this and how do they do it? Like, you got to make me believe... If they did that, you got to make me believe it.
Oh, big time, yeah. Issue 2 is going to be the indicator.
Yeah.
Because again, if he lives, how does he live? If he dies, what's next? Because with us, and I know with you as well, with me, and I know with you as well, it's if you're going to kill off a character, make it mean something. Don't just do it as a throwaway. Don't just do it as a way for Jaime to have some type of some type of ramifications or some type of he's had to grow as a character because his mentor died. No, let's have this be something more than that. And again, so far with the writing, I do like this writer. So I'm not going to... I don't know. I got to wait to see issue 2. I really don't want Ted to be dead. But if he is dead, there's a lot of places they could go with this. And I got to see where they take it and what they do with it. But personally, I don't want it to be. But I don't... It's not looking good for Ted.
Yeah. It's not looking good for Ted. I don't think that means that he's dead, though.
Right. Until we see the funeral, he ain't dead.
Yeah. It's an interesting story. I mean, here's the thing. It's certainly got us talking about it, the way that they did it. Well, the one thing that I really liked about it, let's unpack that a little bit more. So we see Ted activating the laser grid. He knows that, somebody's invaded. Whoever you are, you're going to regret bringing me into this fight. Laser grid is nothing, right?
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden the person's slashing through that, and he's got the computer firing weapons that are in there. It's done nothing. I've dealt with worse than you. Doomsday, Maxwell Lord, which Maxwell Lord is, definitely taken him out. Now he's gone to using time, using what he's learned from Booster Gold. That isn't even enough. The lab's been blown up. He's been, any last words? The bug, unleashed a full attack. It's very rare that we see a villain that makes me feel like Jaime's going to have trouble with the villain. This is one of those villains. That's what they did here. That's a success. Whatever they do with Ted with this, they've created a villain that feels like that suit is going to get a run for its money. The Scarab is going to get a run for its money.
Not just his Scarab, all 3 Scarabs.
Yeah.
This is going to be a tag team, a 3-on-1 fight that they're going to need to work together as a team, to coordinate to take this down. Because, again, a temporal lock is what they use. And it's like I said, worthless toys. The bug fired full engine, full throttle on this guy, and he's like, hey, a fool playing with fire. Ted Cord, who do you think you are? I'm the Blue Beetle. No, you aren't. You're just in the way. I was like, oh, this is a nasty, nasty villain. I really, again, I don't want Ted to be dead, but right here, they've laid down a couple pages. They've created a villain here that you're like, this is going to be a fight. This is going to be epic.
I love that aspect of it. That's something that's very important with an initial series when you're kicking it off. It should feel epic. It should feel like something where you're going, oh my gosh, where's this series going to go? What's going to happen next? I'm really excited for that. This is a series where, boy, issue 2 I'm going to jump to. Like, there's no stockpiling issue 2. That's why I was referencing where Blue Beetle usually falls for me. It wasn't to insult the series or to insult the character. I love the character. This issue captivated me. I really am excited for issue 2. And I'm not saying in a way that I knew I'd be excited for this book. I was excited to do it for this show. But I didn't expect it to hit me this way. It really is the well-rounded nature of it, though. They covered a lot of ground in it. They did all the things that I love. They introduced a coolness factor to being the hero, right? Where it's like, I wanted to be Blue Beetle, like partway through the issue. Where it's like, I'm like, yeah. Oh man, that would be fun. I don't want the bug inside me. Like, that's not a thing. But boy, there's times where he suspends the disbelief to the point that I'm forgetting how he's got those powers, and I really want those powers. That part's kind of cool. I do like the sequence where the girl's like, I didn't sign up for this bug on my arm. I didn't sign up for this kind of guard watchdog duty, which is an interesting sort of piece. We've got other scarab holders that being a hero is not always glamorous. Making these choices is not always great. It's not always the fun factor and the big adventures and all that. Sometimes there's boring stuff that's associated with it. And I like that. I'm like, okay, there's a reality here. This is kind of fun. The series is very well written in that it feels grounded. And that's something that also is very Spider-Man for me, right? And very Invincible. I like that Invincible and Spider-Man, they have these cool power sets and everything, but there's a point in time where you're able to ground and feel the humanity and accessibility of the character. And they've done that very well with Jaime. I think there's been some stumbles along the way with this character, but I feel like when they're nailing him, you get this type of book. And I really liked this one.
Amen. Amen. I'm just going to say amen along with that and go right along with you, man. I love this character. I absolutely love him, and I'm so happy we're getting this now. So let's hope for a nice long run on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are Crystal Men from Mercury. We have no quarrel with you.
I would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. RagingBullets@gmail.com is our email address. In our show episode notes, you're going to find a link to Threads. We're actually on Threads now, so if you're on that platform and you'd like to connect to our podcast, I have a personal Threads, which certainly you're welcome to connect to, but I made one specifically for the show and show content. So please check us out over on Threads. RagingBullets.com is our show website where you can find out details on our upcoming episode releases. You can also get connected to us via Twitter and Facebook from that particular platform. We also have a wonderful Facebook group community, and I want to thank everyone that posts there. It's where I go to first for DC news. Jim and I do regular segments on the show called Speeding Bullets, where we talk about a lot of the DC news that's coming out, and that will be coming back on one of our upcoming episodes. We were kind of getting past the Night Terrors event, getting back into the Dawn of DC discussions. We're going to be bringing that back into the show this month. So I want to thank everyone who posts over there. Please go and participate. The About Us section of the show website, where you can find out details on all kinds of gaming platforms and social media you can connect with us on. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Seguin, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
Batman 89 Echoes, issue 1 of 6, 40% off, $239. Batman Offworld, 1 of 6, 40% off, $239. And Batman Santa Claus Silent Night, issue 1 of 4, 40% off, $239. Thank you, DCBS.
Reminder that over at InStockTrades.com, you're going to find the deals of the week. Batman Under the Red Hood Deluxe Edition hardcover, $49.99 regularly, 50% off, only $24.99. Deceased War of the Undead Gods hardcover, $29.99 regularly, 50% off, only $14.99. And the Superman vs. Meshy trade paperback, volume 1, $9.99 regularly, 50% off, only $4.99. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. If you like movies, you can hear me regularly on Is It Jaws? We have links in the show notes on how to get to that. It's a great podcast where we talk about movies and we rate them according to the scale of Jaws 1 through Jaws 4. And I do that over there with my friend Paul Spatero, and really appreciate being invited to that podcast. Our next episode, Jim and I are going to be back, and we are going to be talking about Fire and Ice. We're going to talk about Batman and Robin, and we're going to talk about Birds of Prey as we continue our look at the dawn of DC. We will see you then.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comics,
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim.
Okay. Just as sweet and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't mean anything by that.
I think
Jim,
I don't know.
how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's our production.